Hello. Stockman Pete, yes, we're in a bit of a different location. I've been requisitioned upstairs. Right, okay, now, I said we were going to start off on Sandy Camp Station, but just one little thing. Whilst in the forces there, being an engineer, the officer said, right, okay, send us down to a place called the Tea Gardens. Oh, have I got a couple of stories to tell you about the Tea Gardens. It's like a big island. There's a river around, and then the land. So anyway, two stories about it. We went down there, me and my old mate Stoner, and we got down there with a lorry. We've got a and load about 4 ton of sand up in it to take back so they could do the sandbags. Well, as luck would have it, we got down there was a digger on the beach, and we couldn't believe it. Now these places are vast places, empty. Loaded it up, and as we turned to drive it out, we thought we'll have a stop on the way back and a bit of a snooze or something, a bit of a rest stop, because we've done this in record-breaking time. The mayor of a local town called the Tea Gardens, he says, oh, stopped us. He says, there was 4 of us, by the way. He said, look, he said, it's Remembrance Sunday today. We said, oh, yeah, well, okay, fair enough, and all this, that. He said, any chance you could do a little march through the town? So we've never had real soldiers with real rifles and God knows what doing anything like that for the RSL here. It's never, I said, it's highly illegal. I said, we can't do it. I said, we get shot at dawn. He said, he said, there's a few drinks in it for you. I said, well, only for once. Anyway, so then we ended up marching through the Tea Gardens. So I said, we might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. I said, we're given 3 volleys of rounds. So we held up, boom, I gave 3 volleys. They absolutely loved it, because we had live ammunition on us, so we gave them three blooming volleys. Absolutely loved it. Into the RSL, all 3 drinks, God knows what. Went back with the lorry loaded up. That had been loaded by the digger, and the officer come out, looked at it all, and we all got a recommendation for working so hard. So that wasn't a bad day. So right, I don't know whether to tell you the other little story about the tea. I might as well just tell you this other little story about the Tea Gardens whilst we're onto it, in case I forget things. As you know, it's off the top of my head. Well, after I'd come out of the forces and done all my bushwork, which is a couple of years later on, I know I'm jumping a bit now, but we're in the same place here. I was back down in Sydney, and I had an old mate and a couple of motorbikes. I had a Honda 90 with the cradle underneath, so it was a tough bike. And the reason I didn't get a bigger bike was that Honda 90, you could lift through the bush or lift over an object. Anything a bit bigger, like a 175, it was too heavy to lift. And we used to go hundreds of miles right out in the bush. Fantastic, Anyway, so I said, let's shoot up to the Tea Gardens. I said, I remember it when I was in the army. I said, nice little place, and have a look. So up we went. Now remember, I said it was an island with, I don't know, 600-700 houses on it, a big island, and a river. It sort of formed a river around the island and to the land. So it was connected to the sea. The river was connected to the sea. So we parked up, and we drove across the bridge to the actual island. And I said to Jeff, I said, I'll tell you what, I said, I'm going to swim back. He said, all right. He said, I'll see you the other side. See you the other side. Blimmin' hot day, and I felt like I swim. So he got on his bike and he went back the other side. He sat on the bank right over. Quite a wide river. I must have been a bit fitter than what I am now, I can assure you. Anyway, in I went. Not a care in the world. Started swimming back. And I'm about halfway across, and Jeff is on the bank, screaming his head off, waving and screaming, waving a shirt, God knows what. So I happens to look up, and he's pointing up the river, and down the river is 2 blimmin' great big grey fins in the water. I thought, oh my God. But it sort of hit me. This river's connected to the sea. There's a pair of sharks here. I'm in real big trouble. And he said, I've never seen anything like it. He said, I've never seen anyone swim on top of the water. He said, you'd have won an Olympic gold. He said, you were going that fast. He said, you're on top of the water. Of course, but I'm in their territory. And these 2 huge, great big grey fins came hurtling at us. And they was outpaid. Of course they were, and I was absolutely in desperation stakes, and they got fairly close to us, and they went bloom under the water, and I thought, this is it. They're coming up now for the kill. Bang! And I was absolutely going flat out. Anyway, about 20 yards, 20 feet in front of us, bang! They broke the surface. Up they come. They were two great big male dolphins, too old for the pod. I hope that's the right word. Being kicked out the pod and off by themselves to die as old buggers, you know. And they were together. You could see lots of scars on them and this and that. Two really, really big dolphins. And I assure you, there wouldn't be a shark within a million mile of these pair, because them dolphins can kill sharks quite easily, believe you me. Eel, your big whites and all this and that. Dolphin will take it out, bang, hits it straight underneath. Dolphin can stand still. A shark has to keep moving to breathe. Remember that. Anyway, up they come. They gave out a little laugh, and they both splashed either side. They knew what they were doing. And Jeff laughed his head off. He said, when you hit the bank, he said, you didn't stop swimming. And this was quite a sharp shingled bank. And up the blimmin' bank I went. Well, all my shoulders, elbows and knees, I'd ripped all them, blood coming from them and everything. He said, you kept swimming up the bank. I said, well, so was you. If you'd have thought there was two great big old sharks after you. Anyway, lesson learnt. I soon patched up, I soon healed up, and that's what I remember. And then look it up, it's called the Tea Gardens. It's called the Tea Gardens. Right, so that was just finishes on. I said I might jump here and there a little bit. Well, you know, there you are, I remembered that, you know, the blooming old Tea Gardens. Lovely place. Anyway, right, so let's get on the track here. Got this job, Sandy Camp Station, as a jackaroo. Now that's an apprentice stockman, hence the name Stockman Pete. Right, and they liked me there. They said, can you ride? I said, no, I can't ride horse. And all this, that, and I was honest and straight, and all this, that, never been on a horse at all. And so Mr. Robinson gave me the job. Right, he was meant to, when you'd done your 4 years apprenticeship as a stockman, you was either overseer, you was either head stockman, overseer, or if you're really good, a manager. These places were all owned by the big meat companies, and that's big business in Australia, big meat companies, right, bang. And so I got the job, and he stuck us with Billy Snow of Two Rivers. Now, we're going to start to talk about the old Aboriginal people a bit now. They're the most wonderful of horse people, but they sort of found it rather amusing to see some white, and I've got to use this, I know, I say, oh, it's racial discrimination, oh, it's, you know, against my human right. It doesn't really bother me. I am white. And to try and stick a white man on a horse in the Australian outback with a blanket, a saddle, a bridle, they used to gather to watch. They couldn't believe it. And it was a source of utter amusement. You see, they just used to get on a horse and they'd ride it like the wind. And they were just so natural and so good at it was a natural thing for them to do. And I thought, what do you put the bridle on it for? You know, well, oh my, and then when they saw a saddle get on it, they'd roll with laughter. They think, what do you put that, you know, all that furniture on it? And that's why even to this day, when I see horses now on the tarmac roads, I really don't like it. These animals are built for fields and dirt and grass, not tarmac roads and gymkhanas. Anyway, right, so I got put with Billy Snow of Two Rivers Snow. He was born between Two Rivers where it snowed, probably down Cosy, and that's how they get names, you see. So we used to call him Billy, but Billy Two Rivers of Snow. Lovely chap, and he taught me all day long how to get on and off horse, how to get your bridles right, your stirrups right, all this business, you know. And I learnt through him and others, of course, how to do a day's work on a horse. I would never say I was a good horseman, never ever say that, but I could do a day's work on a horse. I had two horses, Mary Lou and Blossom, and Mary Lou was a very, very old horse, and did that let me down at, you know, we get to these stories now, and boom, and so we started off there. I had my sleeping quarters down the road, and a mosquito net in the hallway, a mosquito net round the bed, and a mosquito in bed with me. And you turn your water on from the tanks above, and when you clean your teeth and all this that, just be a little bit careful, because you could end up now and again with a mouthful of frog spawn. and I'm afraid that's how you had to live. At least you got a bit of water out of the old tanks out the top. You didn't go looking too much, in case there was a few snakes in there and all. But anyway, and it was no air conditioning on it, you know, slightly slimmer then. But anyway, and well, a couple of pounds, but it hasn't grown, has it? No. Anyway, and this is how you went along, and so it was tough living. Went to the where you got your breakfast, the old big old cook, and it was evening meal the night before, and I said, you know, what's for evening? She said it's steak. I said, oh, you know, I didn't expect, or mutton, you know, lamb. I said, oh, rightio. I said, and I said, I had a steak, and she said, how big? I said, about big, you know, a bit of a greedy boy, and I couldn't eat it all. Well, that was all right. I got it again for breakfast, you know. As I say, Australia, there was no yes or no, no playing around. And it was either steak or lamb or steak. Now, this isn't lamb as you think your lamb joint of a Sunday. This is lamb that's been hung outside, flies cleaned off, brushed down, and it's rather hard. But you were getting something to eat. Luckily, there was always a cup of char, you know, so you're all right there. And we started life as a jackaroo. And that's where we'll leave it this week, and we'll carry on next week. And remember, subscribe, and next week we carry on a few more stories, the old goanna lizards, and a lot more to do with the Aboriginals, the shearing sheds, all wonderful places. You know, there's been some wonderful places. And I'm not going to read the poem out to you because it goes on a bit too long, but it's that's where I come across a relative and got of The Man from Snowy River by Banjo Patterson, 1880, and all word of mouth. You see, there was no papers. There was convicts, badly educated, so people wrote down what they saw or spoke what they saw. And don't forget all the townships that were on the outskirts of Australia. There was Darwin, but not too many convicts in Darwin. And of course, when these convicts finished their time, a lot of them decided to stay in Australia. So this is how it started to progress, and you ended up with someone like Banjo Patterson doing a few poems, but they're speaking poems, if you like. Anyway, we'll get on to that next week. Okay, God bless you. Over, and till next week. Stockman Pete. Bye-bye.